All right, we are going to get into factoring cubic polynomials using synthetic division. I'm going to do two examples. This is a longer video, and so feel free to fast forward a little bit if you want to, but we need to talk about how to set this up first. Also, you can see this is a cubic polynomial. In the past, we have looked at quadratics, or those that have x squared, and so we would typically have two factors. Okay, and we would have to factor to get those most times, and two zeros. Here with a cubic, you're often going to have three factors and three zeros. But we can use synthetic division to factor out one of those factors and then use the quotient to go through the factoring process and find the other two. And so that is what we're doing first with this cubic polynomial. Now, how do we get started? We know with synthetic division, we need a number in like the box or number to call C. But here it's not giving us any number to put in the box. And so you kind of, if you didn't know where to start, you would just be randomly picking numbers. But there is some guidance that we can use on the function and in the function that allows us to narrow down what numbers we might use. And remember, again, the reason we're doing synthetic division is we're trying to find, when we do synthetic division, a remainder of 0, because that means that that number in the box is a 0 of the function. And if we know the 0, we know the factor, and we know the quotient, okay? And so what we're trying to do is find a number that we can put in the box that will give us a remainder of 0. Now, let's narrow these options down, because right now it would be randomly picking numbers to put in the box. We can narrow it down a little bit by looking at our last number. We call this number P. Now, there are other books that are also going to talk about a Q. I'm going to just talk about P in these videos. Because our number that ends up working out ends up just being an integer, okay? And so it does not end up being a fraction or rational. And so that's why I'm narrowing it down just to P. If you need further videos about P over Q and looking at all of those options, I can make those. You let me know, okay? So we're going to look at P. P in this problem is 8. Now, how do I come up with my list of possible integer, that's whole numbers, zeros. So these are not actual, this is just all the list of possible. You're going to take 8 and you're basically starting with 1 and asking yourself, does that number divide into 8? So we have 1 goes into 8. Does 2 divide into 8? Yes. Does 3 divide into 8? No. Does 4 divide into 8? Yes. 5? No. 6? No. 7? No. 8 divides into itself. Okay? So we've got the numbers 1, 2, 4, and 8 as possibilities. But we also have the negative of those as well. So we're going to put little plus minus signs in front of each one of these. And this gives us 8 options here. We could have 1 that works and gives us a remainder of 0, or -1, 2 or -2, 4 or -4, 8 or -8. Okay, we don't know that these are going to be actual zeros until we do the process of synthetic division. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one you start with. I usually just start with 1 so I don't forget 1 or skip over the very one I need. So we're going to start with 1 in the box, and we're doing synthetic division with our dividend being the function. Okay, so our function has coefficients 1, -3, -6, and 8. And now we're doing synthetic division with this. So skip a line, draw a line, and bring down the first one. So that's going to be 1. And now do synthetic division. We're multiplying by the number in the box. 1 times 1 is 1. Next, add. -3 plus 1 is -2. Next, multiply. 1 times -2 is -2. Next, add. -6 plus -2 is -8. Next, multiply. 1 times -8 is -8. And add. That gives me 0. Okay. What was our goal in this? Our goal was to do synthetic division until we found a remainder of 0. Because if this is a 0, then the number in the box is a 0 of the function. So what this tells me is that 1 is a 0 of the function. 1 is a 0. I do want to be clear real quick. You are going to stop when you find just one 0, one number that works, one number that gives you a remainder of 0. We are not trying every number in this list. You just want to start with 1. Okay? All right, 1 is a 0. What else do we know about this? If 1 is a 0, this is the connection that I want you to make here, then that is the x value of this. Then what would the factor be? What would the factor be? So factor is basically being able to set it equal to 0. So if I have x equals 1 and I need it equal 0, and I move this over, then I have the factor x minus 1. This is the factor. So if 1 is a 0, x minus 1 is a factor. What else do we know about the synthetic division? Okay, we knew 1 is a 0, x minus 1 is a factor. We also know the quotient here. So this is our q of x. Let's write that down. Our q of x is 1. What are we starting with? What are we starting with? We have x cubed in our problem. Remember, we're starting one less than that. And again, I talked about this at the beginning. We have a cubic. We're taking out one factor. This should end up being a quadratic for your quotient. So this is going to be 1x squared, which I'm just writing as x squared, minus 2x minus 8. Now, what do you do from here? I want to rewrite this function. Okay, this function I know has a factor, x minus 1, and then it has a quotient that we're going to make our other factor for now, which is x squared minus 2x minus 8. Okay, now what do? Well, we want it fully factored. We want all linear factors, as in each one of them only just have x. And here I've got a linear factor, but here I only have quadratic, or I have a quadratic. So we need to go through the process of factoring with this quadratic. So we're going to bring down this x minus 1 because we don't want to forget it. That's part of the answer. And then we're going to factor x squared minus 2x minus 8. So this is going to be x squared. We're factored by grouping, so blank blank minus x. If you don't remember how to factor by grouping, go back and watch one of my other videos, okay? We're multiplying a, which is 1 here, times negative 8. So negative 8 is 8 times c. And our b is negative 2. We need to figure out what factors multiply to negative 8 and add to negative 2. That's going to be 4 and 2. What will my signs be? The sign of the bigger number gets b. So 4 is negative and 2 is positive. So I'm going to write the negative first, negative 4x and 2x. Once we figure that out, we're grouping. In the first group, we have x coming out. I'm not going to show the division here, but you're dividing by x. So this is x minus 4. In the second group, you've got 2 and 8 in common, or 2 and 8, and the number in common is 2. Not going to show the division, but you're dividing by 2 here. That's going to be x minus 4. Okay, so now our result here, our two factors we get, are going to come alongside this x minus 1 to have x plus 2 and x minus 4. And this is our fully factored form of the function. Okay, that's a mouthful. All right, so this is, if it says factored form, you're looking for parentheses as the answer. So x minus 1, x plus 2, x minus 4. In the same way that we found zeros when we were doing quadratics, when we set each factor equal to 0 and solved, we're going to do the same thing here to find the zeros. And again, I'm totally fine with you understanding that when you set each one of these equal to 0 and solve this, really what you're doing is just changing the sign. Okay, add 1, that gives you a 0 of 1. Subtract 2, that gives you negative 2. Add 4, that gives you 4. Okay, so our factored form here are these three factors, and our zeros are 1, negative 2, and 4. And just a quick note here, the 1 needs to be there because that's also the one you found over here in the box. Okay, so don't forget the one that you worked hard for to get the synthetic division and show that. Okay, all right. That is when this example is kind of nice because the first number that we tried in synthetic division gave us a remainder of 0, but it does not always work like that. So let's do another example where it's not going to work out like that, okay? Let's look at factor and find the zeros here. That should say zeros of f of x by using synthetic division. Okay, so we have a different problem here. We've got f of x equals 8x cubed minus 18x squared plus x plus 6. So let's think through what we did first on our previous problem. The first step is we need numbers to put in the box. We need c's. Okay, so we are going to use the very last number. That's 6 in this case, and we are creating the list of possible integer zeros. So here's our possible integer zeros. So again, we're starting with the number 1, and you're then going through all the numbers till you get to every number that divides into 6. So 2 divides into 6, 3 divides into 6, 4 doesn't divide evenly, 5 doesn't divide evenly, 6 does. So we have the possibilities of plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, or plus or minus 6 here. Okay? Next step, find a 0 by doing synthetic division until you get a remainder of 0. So step 2, we need to find a 0. And that is when the remainder is 0. Okay? Okay, so does it matter what number you put in the box first? No, but I'm going to just, again, go in order. So we're going to do 1, and we're grabbing all of these coefficients for our function. So 8, negative 18, 1, and 6. Skip a line, draw a line. Let's do synthetic division. Okay, bring down, this is 8. 1 times 8 is 8. Negative 18 plus 8 is negative 10. 1 times negative 10 is negative 10. Add 1 plus negative 10 is negative 9. 1 times negative 9 is negative 9. Add and we get negative 3. Okay, so this is not 0, so that means 1 is not going to work. What do you do next? Well, go to the next number. Remember, though, that you don't just have positives here, you've got negatives. So let's try negative 1. And using those same coefficients, 8, negative 18, 1, and 6. Skip a line, draw a line, and we're doing synthetic division. And as you do more synthetic division, the quicker it will come to you, and some of you'll figure out how to do it in your calculator, okay? All right, so bring down 8, negative 1 times 8 is negative 8. Negative 18 plus negative 8 is negative 26. Negative 1 times negative 26 is positive 26. I don't think this is going to get us anywhere, but let's keep going. 1 plus 26 is 27. Negative 1 times 27 is negative 27, and that's not going to get us 0. So negative 1's not going to work. Let's try 2. Let me see if I can squeeze it in here. 8, negative 18, 1, and 6. Bring down the first one. 8. 2 times 8 is 16. Add, negative 18 plus 16 is negative 2. Multiply, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Add, 1 plus negative 4 is negative 3. Multiply, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And add, 6 minus 6 is 0. All right, we got a remainder of 0. That's good. Okay, so that means we can stop doing synthetic division and write down what we know. Okay, what do we know? We know because the remainder is 0, we know that 2 is a 0. We also know because 2 is a 0, then x minus 2 is a factor. So this brings us to where we can rewrite our function, and I'm kind of skipping the quotient step because we can write it as part of this. Remember that your new function, partially factored here, is the factor x minus 2 and then your quotient here, so your q of x. So where's our q of x coming from? It is right here. Okay, so this is going to be 8. And then what are we starting with here? We're starting out with x squared. Okay, 1 less than what we started with. We started out with x cubed. Then minus 2x, and then minus 3. Okay, so that is our partially factored function, or f of x. Now, from here, we need to fully factor it. Okay, so we're bringing down our x minus 2 so we don't forget it. And then we're going to factor the quotient here. So 8x squared blank blank minus 3. And a times c. A is 8 and c is negative 3. So that gives me negative 24. And b here is negative 2. So we need the factors of negative 24 that give me negative 2. So if you're not sure, sit there and figure it out. 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. So it's going to be 4 and 6. That's a difference of 2. The bigger number gets the sign of b, and these are opposite signs. So I've got positive 4 and negative 6. It's going to give me that negative 2, and 4 times negative 6 gives me that negative 23. Y'all know that I like to put my negative first. So we're going to do negative 6x and 4x. And now we've got our 4 terms, so we're grouping. So we're going to group the first 2, group the last 2. GCF in the first group, 8 and 6 have 2 in common. And then obviously we're taking out an x as well. So we're dividing by 2x for both of these. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. X squared divided by x is x. Minus 6 divided by 2 is 3, and the x's cancel. In the second group, 4 and 3 have nothing in common, and you're not taking out an x. So we're really just going to put plus 1 here. And when you divide by 1, you get back the same thing, 4x minus 3. Okay, so let's join these two together along with our x minus 2 to create our factored form. This is going to be 2x plus 1 and 4x minus 3. And that is our fully factored form of the function. That's going to be down here with the factored form. So x minus 2, 2x plus 1, and 4x minus 3. Okay, and then how do you find the zeros? The zeros is when you set it equal to 0 and solve. So this would be setting this equal to 0. Each factor is going to be set equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0, 2x plus 1 equals 0, and 4x minus 3 equals 0. And then solve, solve, solve. Okay, this one's pretty easy. This is just 2. This one may take a little bit more work for you, but you're really just subtracting 1 and dividing by the number in front, or the coefficient there. So that's going to give us negative 1/2 there. And see if you can do this one without having to do that process. Change the sign and then divide by the number in front. Nope, not 3. When did I do that? 4. Sorry. Okay, so change the sign, divide by the number in front. So this is going to give us our 3 zeros. 2, negative 1/2, and 3/4. Okay.